It's time to talk about one of the enduring mysteries of modern gaming, and that is, just why does Bungie struggle so much to make content? Destiny 2 Beyond Light is out in the wild, and it is, according to the user scores, mixed. Literally. This is not the narrative that we would have liked post-Activision split, right? We wanted them to split from Activision, and then for things to go well, for it all to be good and rosy. But no, an apparent lack of genuinely new content has got players scratching their heads, especially in light of much of the game's content being vaulted and a host of other gripes. Gripes that do seem legitimate, not like they're nitpicking. Are Bungie letting us down when it comes to Destiny 2? Well, today it's time to find out. Most of our viewers, though, are not subscribed to the channel, and we make a lot of gaming news content, so if you would like to hang around, if you would like to let us handle the research and the gaming news for you, then give that sub button a click. Also, the like button helps us with the algorithm too, so we'd appreciate it a lot, and with that said, let's get going. First, what's actually in Beyond Light? Well, there is a new zone, Europa. It looks gorgeous, I'll admit that, and it's got these dynamic snowstorms that are really cool as well. And as far as a zone goes in general, it seems like enough of a winner. Now, with that new zone, we of course get new story missions, we get dungeons, strikes, as well as a new raid that will kick off on the 21st of November, though it could be a bit of a sparse raid based on some leaks, but we can't exactly confirm that just yet. We also then get a new elemental power, Stasis. Now that's the first one added to the game in, well, whatever, and it opens up a new subclass tree for all three of Destiny's classes, and that does mean a new ultimate. So yes, this stuff is all quite solid so far. But the question is it actually enough? And how good is the resultant gameplay experience that all of this is supposed to be serving? Well, Beyond Light costs $39.99 at retail, and it does have a $10 season pass. Of course, the goal there is that there are going to be 4 season passes. They are, I believe, included in the premium editions of the expansion, though. But the thing is, that's quite a lot of money as compared to a regular video game. And it still is Destiny. And that's basically where all the problems come in. All those weaknesses that Destiny players are used to, the things that Destiny players have wished for a long time that Bungie would rise above, well, those are pretty much all there. So, let's talk about how they can ship all the content that I've mentioned and still end up with a mixed review on Steam, even though they have opened up free-to-play content and they have their post-Activision freedom and have had it for quite some time indeed. Like Shadowkeep before it, you could say that Beyond Light succeeds in broad strokes, a new planet, new lore, new story, new dungeons and the like, but, like with just about all Destiny content, the devil is in the details, so let's talk about those details. First, loot. Destiny is a loot shooter, after all, and, well, Europa is a fresh new world, but let's just say the loot pools are feeling very familiar to players. There's quite simply just a lot of reuse, and not a lot of excitement there. And that's not exciting to people who want to get cool new guns in a loot shooter. Reskins, then. This was a big part of Steam reviews, and it's been a big part of my personal criticisms toward this game for quite some time. It's a recurring issue, it has been for ages, and with this expansion, it's just getting silly. Enemy designs are really a sore spot, so Destiny has had its light and its darkness for so long that you would think that finally confronting the darkness and going into the big new lore of this expansion would net you some new enemies. But no, it's just reskinned Fallen. Yes, there are some differences, but come on. Like, what is going on? Taken King did its thing with a reskin, but they just keep on reskinning these enemies. What we really should be getting is new enemy types, new factions, actual new innovation there. Yeah, Bungie started off in Destiny, I think, with great enemy design. Those enemies just felt great to shoot. They seemingly forgot to add more for years. Yes, a lot of what they have added has been quite cool, but frankly, for a full bit of paid expansion content, I expect more. People expect more varied loot, fresh designs, and fresh enemies for $40 with the expectation of the purchase of a season pass. This essentially is complaints of laziness, and I think it just encapsulates a major problem with Beyond Light and Destiny in general. There's plenty of potential, but poor delivery. Is it literally laziness? No, I think there's significant problems in Bungie because, well, I doubt they'd actually be lazy. I think these problems exist because there are legitimate problems that cause them, but it feels lazy to players, and ultimately that's what matters because this is a consumer-facing product. Even thinking about it, lore-wise, Beyond Light is really significant, yet it wastes its major villain by throwing out the same reskinned types of content that players have been seeing since the original Destiny. There is flat out also just not enough content in this one, and what has been added doesn't really feel that new to people. In Beyond Light, you can power through the campaign and hit the power soft cap within like 5 hours, so that's a bit wild, and people can do it much faster now that they've worked out, like more optimized methods. And then you're back to it. You're back to the hard power cap grind until the next batch of content comes out. Just that while you're doing that, well, you're going to have to deal with the vaulting of a whole bunch of content, which we'll cover soon. And their struggles with campaign content design also continue. The campaign isn't that great. It is not what you would call a campaign in most other video games. It's Destiny. You know what to expect, and it is that. And in this case, it also reportedly feels quite stretched out because of the light level requirements, and it also doesn't really spend enough time to actually, do well on its decently hyped character stuff. I mean, come on. I then just think about Shadowkeep's content, right? Shadowkeep's plotline that I played through, and I was astounded when it ended because it ended so fast and had so little. And remember, Shadowkeep 2, its last major expansion, it had the moon as its main area. The moon was in Destiny 1. That was more content reuse. And at the time, we sort of thought, and Bungie sort of said, this is our first big thing we're doing ourselves, so, it sort of made sense. They were leaning in things from the past. And yes, Europa is a big new place, but given the amount of other reuse that's here, I just don't think it's acceptable. Live service games live and die on their content, and Destiny is no different. People were really excited for this, for a big slate of fresh new content, and the vaulting of Destiny's older content made it seem like Bungie were really confident in what they had. And it seems like they just did not deliver the goods. They vaulted half of Destiny's content, and that's stuff you cannot play anymore. And if you look at things, 15 new weapons added, many, many more vaulted, and that doesn't feel good to people. So let's cut to the core of Destiny's long-running issue. Content. Bungie struggle with content. That much is obvious after the years and years and years of Destiny's existence, especially when you think about all the help they had with Activision. It very much seems like, they make content slower than just about anyone else. Indeed, we have heard some rumors that they have terrible, horrendous tools that are super inefficient and make it so that it takes an extremely long time for them to get anything done. We have heard those rumors. But still, when they were with Activision, they had development support from other Activision studios. Vicarious Visions worked on Warmind and helped establish the Destiny PC community, and then High Moon helped out, from what I understand, quite massively with Destiny 2 Forsaken, which was the best received expansion since Taken King. And it's, I think, then no surprise that one of the primary reasons that Activision cited when they split from Bungie was that Activision actually wanted their development resources back so they could put them in other things. So while working with Activision obviously did have its drawbacks, right? They weren't really putting those development resources into the things that mattered the most to players, but still, that development assistance is likely being missed here. Bungie are trying, yes, but it just seems like they're struggling to hit the mark. As much as they are pretty open and communicative with their community, it does sometimes just feel like stringing along. It just seems like they cannot produce enough content, and looking at Shadowkeep and looking at this, there's a lot of efficient and smart use of content and what is there, but not bold new stuff that makes you excited to go into a totally new experience. The controversial decision then to vault the bulk of pre-Shadowkeep content, in an attempt to streamline an increasingly, and I would admit, yes, bloated sort of game world, that was a big move. Many people were unconvinced that losing access to all that paid content would be a good thing, but others felt that it showed that Bungie really had confidence in the future. Beyond Light had to make good on those expectations, but instead, it seems to be really not massively worse or better than another Bungie expansion, but just another Bungie expansion. And it seems like that's not enough. Now, game director Luke Smith has stated that there are, and I quote, no immediate plans to bring back vaulted locations, and that the 2021 expansion, Witch Queen, will introduce a new, fresh location, and that is good. But the thing is, Luke then said that vaulted content would need to be brought up to date with the latest context of the universe. So if you wanted some of that content, I would not expect to see it soon enough. It does make sense that content should be updated with the content, or the context even, of the new world, but it very much does seem like they're priming that to bring those various different locations back, but with minor updates. So that does, to me, sort of feel like they're priming it for some more content reuse-focused stuff. Now, I'm not necessarily always against that. I think it can be really smart, but if I'm seeing a bunch of content reuse, I really want to see that be justified in new things, like lots of fresh new enemies and weapons and gear, and that's not really what we're seeing here. One thing we should do, though, is talk about some of the other positives here. So, Beyond Light does offer a new player experience. It would have had to, of course, because the original Red War campaign is gone. And overall, this is probably the easiest version of Destiny 2 to get into, so that will be beneficial for getting new people in. Trimming the fat via the vaulting and offering a more focused experience totally does make sense, right? So that Destiny 2's endgame experience is not, basically multiple years of content all sort of rolled into one very confusing hodgepodge, which it really was. So that vaulting can make sense, but I think the problem is it doesn't feel like there is enough that's new and exciting within that new and focused experience. But the more streamlined new player experience certainly is a good thing. Now, in terms of player numbers, this is actually where the news is initially good. Beyond Light saw the highest concurrent player count, so 241k, since its Steam launch peak of 292k. That is great, but with mixed reviews, you have to wonder if those people will actually stay around. I'll say this, personally, I actually love the act of playing like Destiny 2. The enemies are really fun, the guns are really fun, but for me, I've always been let down by the content that I'm playing, right? The same old enemies, same old stuff, a lot of repetition, a cosmetic game that I think is nowhere near as good as it should be, that's been hampered a bit by microtransactions, some Skinner boxes in the gear that felt very on the nose, lots of just things I don't think worked out particularly well. I would have wanted a lot more, to be honest. There has been one good development, though, I suppose, and that is that Destiny 2 used to be a hotbed of bizarre microtransactions and all the Eververse stuff, but Bungie have seemingly been trying to streamline the Eververse shop and really double down on the Battle Pass, which, I have issues with Battle Passes, right? They can feel a bit grindy and all of that, but at least there is a more streamlined form of monetization in the game that is a bit more sensible, maybe. But still, I'll say this. As compared to the lackluster Shadowkeep, and for context here, it was the glass shattering with Shadowkeep that really had me leaving the game. I enjoyed Forsaken, Season of the Drifter, those things, enjoyed those a lot. But man, it was just after Shadowkeep had the glass shatter for me, I was out of the game. And it seems like this is just more of the same, in spite of the hype and in spite of the fact that expectations are increasing. I think with Shadowkeep, it was possible to give them the benefit of the doubt, They were still fresh enough out of their deal with Activision, carving their own path forward. But this, to me, is not enough, and I think that is not good. To close, Destiny's in a tricky position going forward. Beyond Light was not the stellar injection of content by just about all reports that it needed to be. It is packed with reskins to the point where it feels lazy. 2021's Witch Queen and 2022's Lightfall need to represent massive steps up. They need to have much more content, more unique loot, more raids, more enemies, more everything, basically. It all comes down to the problem this game has had for years. Bungie, be it through management, bad tools, or whatever, just don't really make enough content. And to close this video on one phrase, content is king. You have to have it. And it's the one thing they struggle with. It's as simple as that. There you go. That is really the situation. That is why this has got its, right when I record this, 62% mixed rating on Steam. So, let me know what you've got to say about this. Are you playing Destiny 2 Beyond Light? If you are, what is your personal rating? Does it line up with a 62% like Steam's does? I would genuinely love to know what's going on here. So, just not what's going on. I mean, I'd love to know what your like personal texture and personal experience of this one is, because you just look at this and you're like, Bungie, what's going on? Surely you have enough developers. Surely you have enough funding. How do you keep on undershooting? I don't know. That's it for me. If you would like to support the content we do in this channel, there is the Patreon. Get some dope pins and cool stuff going on there for the physical loot. And of course, that sub button, that like button, they help us out a great deal. And with that said, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.